Well, are you ready for the main event, Brian?
Well, how could you not be?
Main event of the evening.
Lights out.
Lights out, and boy, I wish I'd have had to watch it in the dark. The 10-man cage match extravaganza with Darby Allin, Tanahashi, Kenny, Ibushi, and Osprey against the Hardley Boys, Dick the Boozer, Claudio, and Gabe Kidd, with Wheeler Useless and Marina Schaefer in the corner. And we already know that Osprey this is his last match for however long, because he's going to have the neck surgery. And so he entered last for the baby faces with the career video and the hoopla. His girlfriend voiced over the video. And he's a hometown guy, a home country guy. He got a huge reaction. And from that kind of crowd, the Osprey on the entrance was impressive. They could have had a year of this guy as their champion, but they bungled it from the start. He came in as a heel in the heel group, and then he just asked out, and they let him. And then all this just nonsense that he's been involved in. And now they've lost his services. And of course, being that this is a match where the indie guys can't get out of their own way, they're in a giant cage that surrounds all of ringside as well. But they've got ladders and tables set up around ringside inside the cage already set up. Marks. It's a theme here this week with wrestling. They're all marks. None of them are smart to the goddamn essence of the principle of the business. They're just marks. Want to do fun shit till they need spinal surgery. And they did a comedy entrance in a cage match, a lights out cage match. They do comedy with the Buckaroos not having their music, and then they played it as some song that was supposed to be their first ever music. The announcer said, like anybody would know what fucking music these two jabronis used 20 years ago on outlaw shows. What was that music? Do you even remember?
I'm not sure, no.
They're flashes in the pan that got hot for an internet audience, and they've now presumed that they're household names. And their pan flashed out a while back. And then they just start. Then a crazy match inside the cage. They're on the floor. They're trading chops. Moxley's got a kendo stick. Osprey does a dive. Darby does a dive. It's the greatest hits of all the stuff that they do. The Hardley Boys and Kenny and his buddy did their cheerleading. And for some reason, 3 minutes in, they did a spot where Darby and Moxley were handcuffed to each other, but Claudio broke the handcuffs. And then it was never a factor again. You've got heels outsmarting the baby faces, especially Kenny and Ibushi. When they would try fancy shit, they'd get outsmarted. So that's psychologically ridiculous. And then Nikki, one of the Buckaroos, goes to dump out a sack of thumbtacks, but they were gummy bears. That then Nick acted like he was scared to take a bump in. And Tony Schiavone's over there. Oh, this is wonderful. Shut the fuck up, Tony. It's not my fault you needed the money to have to do this fucking dreck. You're older than I am. You had a fucking background. Just admit it's shit. It's embarrassing. The heels hit people with the ladder and busted the side of Darby's head open, or I think they tore his earring out that he's stupid to wear into the goddamn matches. Because when they powerbombed him into the ladder and he sprung back off of it, he grabbed his ear real quick. It wasn't like a blow that would bust you open like a temple bone. It was like something got caught and ripped out of his ear. So that way later on, Moxley could stick his fork in it. Jesus Christ. Osprey was trying to sell like a wrestler in the middle of this garbage at one point. And he'd get it going, but then they'd stop him and it'd be shits again. Nick bungled up a jump off the top rope. The Hardy Boys or Hardly Boys or Buckaroos or whatever beat up Ibushi. Tanahashi just disappeared, which was a blessing because the poor thing is so crippled he can't walk. Then they beat up Darby and duct taped him to a chair. And that's when Moxley gouged his bloody ear with a fork. I wrote in parentheses, I despise this garbage person, talking about Moxley. And then Claudio slammed Darby while he was taped to the chair. And then they pulled out a barbed wire covered table. But meanwhile, some of the Stooges outside the cage had built a 2-story, 4-table double stack. Moxley bladed for the barbed wire. I wrote, this is so fake, stupid, and dangerous. Why get hurt for this trash? Moxley fell into the wire table. People dove. Then everybody stood around lost. It wouldn't end. Oh, that's when Osprey climbed up to the top of the cage and backflipped off onto everybody. Well, he's having surgery already anyway, so what the fuck? And then Kenny and Kid started trading fake forearms so Kenny could make his faces. And a bunch of people did shit over and over. And then, let me see if I can describe this. Moxley climbs out of the cage with the help of Wheeler, but Darby goes up and climbs up and catches Wheeler, and Wheeler takes the bump onto the announce desk off the side of the cage. But then Darby got out of the cage. He climbed all the way out and went back down to the floor and beat Moxley with a kendo stick and laid Moxley on the first level of the tables, but went to the top of the cage so he could jump off. But Gabe Kidd nutted him and Moxley moved, and Kidd and Darby just jumped off together to go through all 4 tables. And Gabe Kidd should be injured from the way it looked like he fell. That wasn't the end. Then there was more choreography at 100 miles an hour. And then Kenny and Osprey hit Maddie with a good-looking double team. And like that could have been it. But then time stood still while Tanahashi drug his crippled ass to the top rope and took forever to balance and stood up tentatively and halfway splashed and halfway just fell forward and splashed him 1, 2, 3. They gave Tanahashi they can't even get their own goddamn talent over on some of their biggest shows because they have to insert these crippled motherfuckers.
It was like, you ever see footage of old man Mil Mascaris doing his high cross body, and it's just like he falls off the rope, and he's about half his age.
So the baby faces won. Then everybody leaves Osprey in the ring to get his ovation.
Fans seem happy. Fans are happy to give Osprey his moment, knowing he'll be gone for a while.
They're singing for him. They're playing the music. And then wait, what? I wrote, seriously, more heat? I heard some of the cable systems, they milked it long enough. Some of them went off the air. I don't know what percentage, but some went off the air before they got to this. But the heels got on Osprey and locked him inside the cage. Now the rest of the baby faces are out of the cage. They've locked him inside the cage. And they beat the shit out of him with the repeated DDTs. And Marina Schaefer climbs the cage to get in. She's in. All the baby faces are standing out there, plus Joe and Hobbs and Shapoopy. And Moxley puts the chair around Ospreay's neck and stomps it. Everybody, a minute ago, even the girls were climbing the cage willy-nilly. Now nobody can climb the cage. They're screaming, raise the cage, raise the cage. We just literally saw 4 or 5 people climb up and over and out of the cage. Why can't they go the other way?
Why can't it just be raised?
Well, when it finally was.
Was Ole Anderson controlling the remote control for the cage? Like
no, the Black Scorpion who had it. But no, when they did raise the cage, the heels just scurried away and the baby faces didn't do anything. This sort of, maybe they all trained at Knox Pro Wrestling because they didn't do shit to help their friend. Because now Ospreay's going to be out. Swerve's going to be out. Other people are out. Maybe MVP's out. Maybe the Hurt business is out. Maybe they're out of business. Maybe they got disgusted and just said, fuck it, we're leaving.
Even if Ospreay's hurt and going to be out for a while, this seemed like a bad way to end the show for the people there. It took the heart out of the room, it seemed like.
Yes, because you can't blame the heels. He's already told people he's going to have neck surgery. He said, I'm going under the scalpel after this, and I don't know if I'll be the same, but I'm going to leave it all in the ring. So he should have goddamn got the pin. He got his hand raised in front of his home audience and got the thank you. That's what they came to do. You don't need to have somebody attack the guy and drop him on his head 15 times when they've already said he's got a hurt neck. How much more hurt does it have to be? Everything doesn't. That's Tony, because of Tony's condition, whatever that may be. Whenever they have the ability to scan brains and find out exactly what causes things, Tony thinks there has to be some storyline reason for shit, even when people already know the real story. And the only reason there was ever a storyline reason to cover for injuries is if people didn't know the real goddamn story. Oh shit, I got to have surgery. It's just popped up. Let's do an angle. Give me a pile driver. Not, oh God, I've got to have surgery. I'm telling the world I'm going to have surgery. And then the heel comes out and gives me a pile driver. The fuck? I've got a cramp again.
Well, Jim, that was AEW Forbidden Door 2025. They'll be returning to Wembley Stadium next year to build upon the amazing groundswell support they've received from the London fans. But Jim, perhaps you're a fan of good professional wrestling, angles that aren't insulting, promos that are good and feel natural, guys who can work without going to a yay boo spot at the end of their match. I'm so sick of that. Perhaps you just want to sue.
Oh, well, perhaps if you do want to sue, then I know for you the right person that will do the job that you need him to do. And that is this man. Play the music.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. He'll sue the rest.
Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The law office of Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE, is going to be knocking on the door of whoever has perpetrated the sin against you, whether it be unlawful termination, irresponsible negligence. As a matter of fact, speaking of irresponsible negligence, I know that the wrestling community, even all the way out there in California, they got to know about the legend of Stephen P. New. You think Stephen P. New is going to be driving Rikishi's Cadillac next year? Maybe just a thought. Nevertheless, that's who you need to go to, folks. If somebody wrongs you, make it right with Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. More updates on Stephen P. New's legal wrangling in a variety of cases involving us that you folks know about in the weeks to come.
That's right. Get even with Stephen, newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE.